So the Xbox One, the original Xbox One that is sat right here. Let's talk about it, as it's now almost 7 years old. Was it actually any good? Now, I'm not talking about the Xbox One as a whole generation, so the Xbox One, One S, One X, One S Digital, if you count that. I'm purely talking about the original Xbox One that first launched in 2013, November time, that launched for the original PS4. I thought it was fitting considering the new Xbox Series X and PS5 we're getting a lot more details on them. They're coming out probably November time, I'm guessing this year, maybe December at latest, I'd say. That's what they say anyways. And I thought I'd sum up at least one of the starting consoles from the last generation, or current generation still. Let's talk about how it survived this time. And yes, just to clear up, this is my actual Xbox One. It has got a Liverpool skin on it. It was a present, and I'm very happy it's on there. Ignore that. It's still an Xbox One if you don't like it. If you do like it, nice. Let's rewind all the way back to 2013 times, roughly this time in 2013, when we probably started to get events and stuff, same as we're getting now, E3, all that jazz, where we finally heard about this console. But we had rumours and stuff going into it, and some of them weren't nice. When they actually first revealed the Xbox One and told us about it, the focus wasn't entirely on gaming, and if I'm honest, it was barely on gaming, to be honest. There was obviously gaming aspects, it has to be, it's a game console. It had a heavy multimedia focus to watch all the stuff as an all-in-one system, hence the name Xbox One. Hence the eventual features to have a HDMI import to plug in a cable box or something like that, and the fact that you could connect it to your TV, it would turn on and off your TV, it would basically become your new, well, entertainment centre. Now, I don't think that was too much of a problem, the fact they focused on that a lot. I mean, a lot of people probably do now, including me, watch YouTube, Netflix, all the streaming platforms and stuff on your Xbox One, because you can have all the apps there, and you watch it on the same TV, and then when you're not watching it, you're playing games, and then when you're not playing games, you're back to watching it. I get it, it works. It was the same as every other console since. The Xbox 360 had it, the PS4 later had it. But I feel like a lot of people were turned off by the fact it was just focused as, this is your box for everything in your whole home. All your TV, all that stuff. Forgetting the fact that, you know, it's a games console first. If they'd have gone the route of, it's a gaming console, but it can now also do these other stuff when you're not gaming, yes, maybe people will like it more. If you just put a tiny little bit of focus on the TV stuff and the rest gaming, that might have worked. And I might be able to oversight that. I mean, the focus wasn't on gaming, but you can just focus on gaming and guess ignore that marketing bit, wait till they say gaming stuff. This next bit you might not be able to, which is all about the DRM parts of this console and the fact that they tried to phase out used games entirely. The DRM problems they had, DRM standing for Digital Rights Management, was that the second you bought a game, download or disc, which was the key part here, and then you installed it on your Xbox with whatever account you use, it was then permanently tied to that account and only that account. That'll work out a minute on day one. If I had a game, let's say Forza, I installed it, and then let's say I want to give it to my friends. Let them play it for a bit, and then they give it back to me. They couldn't do that. Normally, which probably many people don't even worry about, the rights are in the disc. Hence, you know, you don't want the game anymore, you sell it, you give it to someone else, you don't have a tie to that game anymore. Now it's not, and the disc becomes useless the second you install it, other than to you to put it back in your console to start playing it again. In other words, there'd just be thousands of discs of Forza just freely roaming around because they'd be useless after one use. Now, obviously, digital works exactly that way. You download it, you can't just share it to someone. I mean, there might be ways, but you can't just officially sell that game off your account and let someone else digitally download it. That's not how it works. But disc has never gone by that system, and personally, I don't think it ever should. And they tried it, and the community obviously disagreed quite heavily. It was one of the things that they eventually turned their back on and was like, the outrage is probably not worth it, and yeah, they went back, put it back to the normal system. I think one of the main reasons they turned it back, maybe not even because of the outrage, because I feel like they could have probably held up against that. It was more the pre-order numbers, the sales numbers that the PS4 was getting, directly because they didn't allow that, and PlayStation did, and PlayStation were actively making people know about that. Another slightly controversial feature they started to bring in, or wanted to bring in I should say, was the always on feature on the Xbox One. And it's not literally your Xbox One is always on, like physically turned on, you cannot turn it off. It's not that literal. It's very much linked to the DRM feature, so the fact that you couldn't actually give a used disc to someone and they wouldn't be able to install it or do anything. The license was tied to your actual account permanently from that point. There was a feature you could have it shared with family accounts, but in essence it was yours and only yours. Now the way they had to check that disc or download was it had to be connected to the internet, and they would synchronize to check, okay, you've got the license, you can carry on playing this game. But they decided to make it so you had to check every 24 hours. And if it wasn't, your Xbox would disable all your games and you couldn't play. So let's say if you went away on a trip and you just brought your Xbox and want to play some offline games or something, you can't do that at all. In fact, you would never even want to, because you needed to be connected to the internet. You was forced to connect to the internet every 24 hours. Didn't again go down well with many people. And again, just like the used game thing, they went back on that pretty swiftly at the same time. This was all before the release of the entire console, by the way. This is before this came out. So these were all widely disagreed with. So those are the major bumps they had pre-launch, and then afterwards they launched it. It came with the Kinect 2, which is probably the next part that I'm going to go on. The fact that it was included with every single Xbox One that was sold for 7 months, regardless if you wanted the Kinect or not, for an increased price compared to the PS4, which didn't have its PlayStation Eye camera, which is the equivalent, bundled with it, that wasn't ideal. It also reserved one of the 8 CPU cores that was on board the Xbox One purely for the Kinect. Not ideal for game devs who want to use as many as possible and all the performance it has. After 7 months, like I said, it was not bundled with the Xbox One anymore unless you wanted it, and I'm pretty certain it's been discontinued at this point. So that's good news for people who didn't want it, but don't get me wrong, it was useful. For all the people that wanted to play games like Just Dance or other games that just used that, like that you actually actively wanted to use, it was perfect for it. It worked, it was just a Kinect but upgraded. Same as the first one, but better. But for people like me who just didn't want it, didn't need it, and now had to pay more because they had to pay for that with the bundle, regardless if they wanted it or not, I don't know why they didn't just sell it separately as an add-on or something. That would have been better. So basically Sony got a nice head start purely because of all the features and stuff that were rumoured that ended up becoming true that didn't go well with a lot of Xbox fans, and the fact that the price was just higher than a PlayStation. So hopefully let me claw this back and give the Xbox some praise with its specs. Let's talk about what it came with under the box, because it still had to be good. It couldn't just be awful. It also other things separate from the console itself. Let's talk about it itself. It had an AMD Jaguar CPU, or APU I should say, with 8 cores, 1.75 GHz, 8GB of DDR3 RAM, with 3GB reserved for purely the system itself, so 5GB of games. AMD graphics with 12 CUs, 853 MHz, 1.31 teraflops, basically meaning you could get 1080p with most games, 1080p 60 with some games, and less than that a bit when games were struggling on it. And if you think of what any of those numbers mean compared to the PS4 just had some more power. Games where it could run 1080p 30 or 1080p 60 on some. On the PS4, it was running 900p 60 on the Xbox One. The Xbox One just was off a bit on the performance. The PlayStation just had more things dedicated to gaming in terms of the specs. Like, they were very similar on paper, but more in the Xbox was for the all-in-one entertainment, for other stuff, for the system. Almost half of the RAM was for purely the system. So on that basis, it wasn't ever going to win purely on specs for just the gaming on its own. But enough about the stats, enough about all the specs, and enough about the features, comparison between both of them. Let's talk more about my personal experience with my Xbox One, which is sat here, my original one from 2014. I didn't get it straight away, but let me tell you how I've lived with mine. Okay, so this is going to be more from my personal experience with my actual Xbox One. I'm sure others have had it like how I've had it, but let me tell you about it. For a start, it's been reliable the entire time I've had it. It's not broke down, it's not had any random shutdowns, overheating and shut itself down, stuff like that. It still runs most of the games it's played at the same resolution it plays it now. I mean, I don't know why it would change, but it still runs some at 1080p, 1080 60. I'm sure not all of them do, some probably like 900p, but they all still look fine just as when I got it initially. The games I play like Call of Duty, I've played Forza, sometimes I play FIFA, sometimes I play GTA. They all look good from when they were out, and they still look good enough now. I'll bear in mind I'm playing a 1080p monitor TV more like, so it looks and works fine for me. And the original Xbox One, as all the other Xbox Ones, still have backwards compatibility with pretty much every Xbox 360 title, including all the main ones that I play. The main ones were throwback Call of Duties to me, some old FIFAs. GTA 5 on Xbox 360 if you had it, that was backwards compatible. I don't know why, but point being, I could still play any classic games I wanted freely without any hassle, just put the game in, install it as if it was an Xbox One game, and then roll with it just the same way. And they all still play fine as well. The only minor issues I had with it, but minor issue is still an issue, so I thought I'd say, is the fact that, like I said, it does manage playing a long amount of time in gaming, but after a long amount of time, the feature that you could just switch between games pretty quickly, like a second after the other one, the fans will become very, very reminiscent of a Boeing 747 jet. It sounds more or less identical. So yeah, the cooling fans definitely do need to whirl up after switching a game, after playing for a long time. If you just started it up for the first time in a day, close the game straight away, go to a new one, it won't. But give it an hour or two and it will. Easily thought of if you just wait a minute after closing the first game, let it cool a little bit, switch to the second game, it won't spin up its fans anymore, it'll just sound normal. Well, it's not quiet, I'll give it that. It's not loud, but it does make a bit of noise, and obviously it generates a bit of heat, but all in all, that's the only little cooling issue I've had. Feel like I could have easily prevented that purely by opening it up if I had the right tools for it, and cleaning the insides, because I can tell it's got some dust in that I just can't get from the top with an actual like aerosol thing and stuff. So if I could get inside, might run a little bit cleaner and better. So I do encourage, if you still have one and you are getting a bit of cooling issues, if you can get the right tools for it and you can properly open it up correctly and not break it. If you don't feel confident, I would just let it run as it is. But if you do, open it up, give it a nice clean where the fans are, and pull it back together safely. So to wrap it up with the title, the original Xbox One in 2020, was it actually good? Is it still good? Yes, it was good. It had rocky starts and bumps, and compared to the PS4 directly, it wasn't the best start, and the PS4 probably had an edge. And objectively, specs-wise, in gaming, the PS4 had an edge. But the Xbox One wasn't bad in any way, shape or form. It worked, it did its job exactly. It still wasn't like out of its league compared to PS4. It delivered more or less identical performance in a lot of games and just a bit lower in some. And for people who are playing it who didn't really know what the PS4 was like, guarantee you didn't know any of that, and it just worked for you, as it did for me. So it was a solid console in all, and I actually still liked it. And yes, I like the actual gloss trim on it. Yes, I have a skin in it, but the gloss didn't look too bad to me. All in all, I am excited for new consoles. I love new tech, and I can't wait for the Xbox Series X and the PS5 to have a look at them. I probably will be getting the Xbox Series X, but I'm still interested to see what the PS5 looks like, runs like, etc. like that. But yeah, I think that is it for this video, and it's time to wrap it up. So if you did enjoy me summing up the Xbox One and its life cycle throughout almost 7 years, including talking about how I've ran with mine, drop a like on it, drop in the comments any thoughts you have if you have your own Xbox One. If you've had the PS4, let me know how you actually ran with that. I know it's nothing to do with this, but is it anything comparable? Did you have issues like this? Because I don't really follow the PS4 story past the launch and any major things that come through that everyone hears about. And yeah, that's been it. I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.